Hey, greetings, fellow makers. Welcome to Prop Live Q&A, your weekly prop and costume making Q&A session. I'm Bill. We have a wonderful guest with us today, my buddy, Stephen K. Smith. Steve, you look tired.
I'm always tired, man. Always building stuff.
Yeah, you said today was a molding and casting and trimming day. And I saw you had your kids involved, which is always a benefit to having kids.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big one for this summer. There's no summer school here without taking your kid to it. So she's going to have prop making class just every day.
That is fantastic. Of course, if you've been under a rock for the last couple of years, you know who Steve is. Go to SKSprops.com. There's a picture of your kid right there with their Astrid costume. That's fantastic. And a bunch of other stuff. Skull Kid, or not Skull Kid. What's the Skeletron? Turbo Skeletron.
Kid.
Your giant orc. Head on over there to check out all the wonderful, amazing costumes and prop things that Steven's made. So, educate yourself. What else? Steve, we hung out at Emerald City Comic Con, which was lovely.
It was lovely. I wasn't in a shop for a whole week. Well, at least my shop. I was in your shop for a week.
I think we were planning on doing a Q&A with you and Ted, but I think instead we got Ted drunk and made him play Destiny. So
that was a better time.
Well, there's a video of that too. We have a video up on the internet if you guys want to check that out. But you've been busy. You were just at C2E2 with the new costume.
Yeah, C2E2, and then back to back straight to Planet Comic Con in Kansas City.
Oh my goodness, that's almost as many conventions as I've been to in the last couple weeks.
Which is why I'm taking a much deserved break.
That is a good thing to do. I'm looking quickly. I didn't have this queued up. Looking for your Death Dealer. This is what I liked that you did that I want to do. And as soon as I can find a freaking picture. Facebook can't find anything for SKS Props. Okay. Stop being a jerk. Stephen K. Smith Props. There we go. All right. You made the Death Dealer, which was awesome. People have been like chomping at the bit to see that thing get all finished up. But what you did that was special is you have a friend who is jacked, let's say, and you put him in the costume, which I think was brilliant.
Yeah, I love Ethan and Lauren of Thousand Faces Cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
They are amazing people, first off, but they get into character more than almost any cosplay I've ever seen. And they didn't know if they're going to be able to make it to Planet. And I was like, man, my wife and the kids aren't going to be able to make it this time. Why don't you come and be booth partners with me? And they're like, yes, that'd be awesome. Like, we'll wear our Borderlands stuff. And I was like, would you want to wear Death Dealer? And Ethan flipped out. He was like, oh man, that'd be such an honor. Like, it'd be an honor for me to watch you wear it, because then I can talk about it while you're walking around looking awesome.
That's great. Well, I think I need more athletic friends that I can put in my costumes. So look for that. Actually, if you're athletic and want to wear a costume of mine, apply now. What else? You've been a man about town. You got Brittany linked this to me. Let's find it here. Someone did the Wasteland Alice costume.
Yes, that was awesome at C2E2.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Kyra Wolfgar. About 2 months ago, she wanted to surprise me and say that she wanted to be Wasteland Alice. And I was like, that'd be awesome, because there's been a couple girls that have made it, but I've never been around any of them. And she did a fantastic job. Embodied the whole character.
That is awesome. Very, very cool. Well, it's been very exciting from our end to see all this stuff going down. And of course, I'd be, what's the word? I would be irresponsible if I didn't mention that you were on the television.
I was on the TV. Yes, I was.
TV machine. In fact, you were on Cosplay Melee, and I got to see your costume at Silicon Valley Comic Con, which you didn't even know was going to be there.
Had no idea, because I don't own it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people are surprised about, that the show ends up owning the costume. But 4 of the winning costumes were there, including yours and Emily's and 2 other ones that names are escaping me. But I was excited. I got to see it in person.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it since the time we filmed, and I'd like to see it at least one more time.
If you guys haven't had a chance to check out Cosplay Melee, I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. We don't have cable, but we just bought it on Amazon Prime and just watched it there the day after, which was good. That just meant the day it was airing, I had to stay off of Facebook and Twitter, so I didn't get spoiled. I didn't know, and I think it's been long enough that we can spoil your episode. So maybe
it was a while ago.
Yeah, maybe if you're watching and you don't want to get spoiled, maybe close your ears for the next minute. But when we were going into it, even though you had filmed it already by the time we were at Emerald City, I didn't know who was going to win. So it was very exciting to watch it, not knowing, and then to watch you, sure enough, take home the gold.
Yeah, but those pesky NDAs, you can't say anything. You can't hint nothing about it. So
I didn't want to know though. I wanted to be surprised along with everyone else, which I was, and it was very, very cool. So awesome. Well done, sir. Congratulations. Well deserved on your win.
Thank you very much. It was definitely a time. I know that I can build a costume in 3 days, but no one should ever do such a thing.
Awesome. Cool. Let's see. What else do we have here before we start taking your questions? Oh, by the way, gang, if you're listening live or if you're listening after the fact, you can submit questions at any time at punishprops.com/live. Head on over there and send your prop and costume making technique questions. And if you're watching live, do it now and we'll get there, or we'll get to it by the time I'm done yammering on. Let's see. Oh, we put up a video. Brittany cut together all of our footage from Star Wars Celebration. Today is Star Wars Day, May the 4th. And there's a little bit of a video there. So that's over on our second channel, Punished Props Extras channel. If you want to see our shenanigans with our buddy Bob and me and Britt over at Star Wars Celebration, head on over there and check that out. A quick programming note. We will not have any live streams next week. We're taking a break. We will have a couple of YouTube videos going up, but no live streams because we will be traveling. First, we're going to Northern Fancon in Prince George, British Columbia. We fly out tomorrow morning. So if you're up there, come say hi. We'd love to hang out with you along with a bunch of other cool costume people, including Cosplay Melee's own Leanna Vamp will be there. So exciting. So that's it. That's all our programming. Come see us in Canada next week. And I think it's time to start answering some questions. Are you ready, Steve?
I'm ready.
Okay.
And then after this, I'm going to bed.
Okay. After this, I'm having dinner. That's my plan. All right. Our buddy Nick over at Modulus Props says he's been thinking about getting a mannequin for displaying costumes at cons and maker fairs. Do you have any suggestions for things to look for or avoid? I'm going to throw this one to you, Steve, because you got tons of mannequins.
Yeah, actually, every single one of my costumes that I've ever made is on a mannequin in my basement right now. The big thing is it depends on if you're going to travel with them. I would recommend not to go with fiberglass mannequins if you're going to travel. All of mine are plastic and gone through numerous conventions and never gotten crushed or banged up or beat up.
Cool. And are those the sort of thing you can just order on Amazon?
You can. I bought a couple off Amazon, and then I also go to fullbodymannequins.com, and they've got some good deals every now and then.
I don't know how to spell mannequin, but I'll look it up.
Google will correct it for you.
Mannequin, there we go. Full body mannequin. I'm interested in that too because I totally want. There we go. Fullbodymannequins.com. Hey, awesome. I definitely need. We don't have space for them right now, but at some point we will move, and then we will make sure we have plenty of space. There are many, many options, and some of them are naked. So there's that. Cool. There you go, Nick. Thanks for the question. Moving on. PR Props says, "Hey, Steven, I'm a big fan of your work."
I'm a big fan of his work, too.
He says, your painting skills and the way you use foam is an inspiration for me. And you have a group of fans in Puerto Rico. All right.
Awesome.
For time management on Cosplay Melee, you got 8 hours to complete a prop. Were they 8 consecutive hours? Did you have breaks?
Yeah, it is 8 hours, but you do get pulled out for interviews.
Oh, yeah.
So we get pulled out for about an hour to an hour and a half to go through interview process, which is nerve wracking when you get back, after being gone for an hour and you see how much further everybody else is.
Yeah. But then they'll get dragged out for something too,
But
probably.
yeah, they do. Everybody
Yeah.
gets the same amount of time off the floor.
So what I'm curious about, what if you were like painting something and it's or like I'm trying to think of something that would be like time sensitive, where you would like brush part of it on, like half of the barge, and then they're like, "Oh, we need you for an interview," and you're like, "Let me finish this one thing."
Now, I will say that production was really good about, letting you know up, in advance, like, hey, if you need to let something dry for an hour, you better probably do it within the next 10 minutes.
That's good too, because you could say, well, if I'm going to be gone for an hour, I might as well do something that needs to sit for an hour before I can work with it.
Exactly.
So, hey, speaking of Cosplay Melee, our buddy Zombie is in the chat. Grace, thanks for stopping by. Grace is wicked cool. She does lots of streaming too, so you should check her out. Okay, thanks for the question, PR Props. That was a good one. Next one is our pal Sam over at Bio Cosplay. He says, he was at C2E2 as well, I think. Pretty sure him and his Death Knight were at C2E2. This summer, I would like to attempt to sculpt something for fun. Do you have any recommendations on a clay to start with or general tips? Steve, that's all you.
Yeah, when it comes to sculpting, all I use now is monster clay. I've got 3 tubs in a small convection oven, and then I'll just move them one after it melts down, use it, starts to solidify, the other one's already melting. I use Chavant in the very beginning, but I had a lot of problems with it sticking to all my tools. So I switched over to monster clay and don't have those problems anymore.
Very good. I actually got a bunch of monster clay, and I haven't even used it yet because I haven't had a project to use it on. But I got it just to be ready. So I have it. Thanks for the question, Sam. Let's see here. Renee has a question. Steven, when talking to the camera on Cosplay Melee, you looked a little under the weather. I'm assuming you may have been a little sick or tired. How did that impact your time on the show?
Yeah, so for the people that don't know, because I actually told Sci-Fi not to mention it, not to film it, anything. I was extremely sick day 2. So I did a full build day, went home, was sick all night, got maybe 2 hours of sleep, and then had to do another full build day. And that was probably the worst day of my life.
and then he won because he is a champion.
Yeah, because it was literally like, I'm in a shop where I could build anything, and I don't want to be here.
Oh, no. Granted, there was a lot of pressure specifically because of the show. But also, I've had days like that too, where it's like, maybe not as bad, but where you're self-employed, you have a job that needs finishing, and you're sick, and you're like, those are the days where you're like, boy, I love being self-employed, but I really hate this. This day in particular.
I could not curl back up in my bed and just call it a day.
No.
I'm like, I'll work twice as hard tomorrow. It's like, no, I have a costume completely finished.
I thought, which is funny too, because you had mentioned you were sick to me before I saw the episode. So I was watching with like a critical eye. I was like, But every time that camera panned across you, all smiles.
Yep. And then the camera would pan back, and I'm like, oh my God, I need more Pedialyte.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad you persevered. Oh, a quick shout out to our friend Ashley, Fake Gamer Girl, in the chat, who just subscribed for 1 year in a row. Thanks, Ashley. She says that we can't get rid of her, and it's true. All right, let's keep pushing forward. Morty is curious, what is the best adhesive for insulation foam? I want to laminate a few pieces together to make a thicker piece for carving. I found a couple of places that say wood glue, but it takes forever to dry. I use Super 77, but I've had the layers come apart. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. So for insulation foam, for anything really, if you go to thistothat.com, have you ever used this website, Steve?
I have not, but I am actually making a note right now.
Yeah, thistothat.com. You can pick 2 things. So attach styrofoam to styrofoam. you could say styrofoam to wood or rubber or plastic. And then you hit let's glue, and it brings up a bunch of options for you. So it says, for the strongest and least toxic bond, we recommend weld bond. And then it gives you links and more information about it. So I'm not exactly sure. A place that sells it, the official site. Let's see. This is a somewhat better than average PVA adhesive, but don't be fooled by the advertisement. It does not bond almost everything, and we don't believe there's anything space age about it. It's a good glue, but it's not the only glue you'll ever need. That's weld bond. But it also says if you need to carve the styrofoam and you need an adhesive that is easy to cut through, we recommend the LePage's Press Tight Green Contact Cement. So ThisToThat.com is a great place to go to look for options on gluing stuff together. So there you go. I've used Super 77 just because I have it and it's fast. And they also recommend that. For an easier, faster alternative, we recommend Super 77. There you go. Thanks for the question, Morty. Let's keep moving on here. Mayday says, I have some really bad, I have really bad imposter syndrome. I feel like everything I make isn't good and it's really upsetting. Do you guys have it? How do you go on? You ever feel that way, Steve?
Man, as an artist, everything you build, you're like, man, I could do that a little bit better. You know,
yeah.
That's how you grow.
Mm-hmm. But also, like, I never want to be the most talented or the smartest person in the room. Fortunately for me, it's not that hard. But if I surround myself with people who are more talented than me, who are smarter than me, who are nicer than me, then I'm always trying to get to their level and I'm always improving. But that means sometimes I end up in a room and I look around and I'm like, I do not belong here.
Actually, I was talking about that at the Kansas City this last weekend, is that every time I feel like I'm getting pretty good at building costumes, Harrison's things just pop up in my feed and I'm like, yeah, I'm not there yet.
Just knock it down a peg. I think there's something as well when you really focus on developing a skill or a skill set, that you get to a certain point where your technique gets to a certain point, your eye gets really good, where you're like, I'm good enough to know how much more better I could be. Because when I was really getting started and I was bad at making props, every new project I made, I was like, this is incredible. I am the best prop maker on planet Earth. I'm good enough now to see all the flaws and know where I have to improve, where I have to grow, which is good.
Yeah, mine's always still sculpting.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that thing of, I went to school for art. I took sculpting 1, but man, I wish I had done more. Right.
When you had the opportunity for someone to really kind of guide you. Instead of just blundering your way through this like we do. Yeah, so Mayday, that feeling never goes away. Just keep setting deadlines and finishing projects and improving. And then just cry yourself to sleep every once in a while. It's okay. Tim wants to know, which do you like better, making movie props or game props, and why?
Well, I've only made one movie prop, and that was from Turbo Kid. But I love that one because nobody knew what the heck it was.
Yeah.
Like, we rolled on that at Dragon Con, and like 5 people recognized it, but those 5 people lost their mind.
Right. I personally like, I'm just more into video games than movies in general. And that's kind of how I got into all of this. So I'm just more into the video game thing. But taking a 3-dimensional thing from a video game and making that into a real thing, there's just something about that process that I find deeply satisfying. More so than, say, replicating my favorite gun from a movie, because that existed at some point. The video game thing was never real. It never existed except digitally. And there's something cool. Like, I feel like a magician if I can turn that into something real. So
I really felt that way with my Death Dealer. You know, because Frank had done 5 different paintings, but his face was always in shadows.
Yeah.
And so to be able to create it and bring it to life, that was special to me because I added my own little artistic flair to it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then, and like you said, it was a painting. It was never a like a movie prop or anything. So you got to make it real, make it into something that was real. That's kind of cool. Thank you for the question, Tim. Let's keep moving here. We got a couple of questions from Magically Done Creations. How do you go about using Barge for recessed pieces? The Barge doesn't seem like it gives a lot of working time. Is there another adhesive that's better? Also, what would be a good way to reinforce those recessed pieces? Let's see. In Arizona, hot glue is not a good thing since it just melts again. I know what you mean, because sometimes, like, if you cover a couple of pieces in Barge and then you got to cram one of them into the other one, if it touches at all, it'll bind and it won't get all the way in there. So for something like that, I might just use super glue.
Yeah, I use super glue a lot. There's another one that Tandy Leather makes called Eco Weld, which is a contact adhesive too, but it's water based.
Yeah.
And if you water it enough, it'll actually help slide before it sticks.
Well, that's kind of cool. Basically with anything like that, contact adhesives. Oh, there goes my air compressor. It's good to know that's still on. um, Contact adhesives in general are going to be a little trickier because as soon as they touch, they may bond right away, like with Barge. So super glue might last a little bit longer. It's just everything's going off in here. We got thunder, we got compressor. All right, sorry for the distraction.
And see, and I told my wife and kids and dog to just keep it down for right now.
Yeah, so maybe try super glue. Any way to reinforce the recessed pieces. So if you have I
love Reese's Pieces.
Mm-hmm. But this was a fight on Twitter the other day. I much prefer peanut butter M&Ms. I don't know. What was I saying? Oh, if you have pieces where you've cut out a piece and pushed it into the foam and then glued it there, from the back you can reinforce it with hot glue. If you're having trouble with hot glue melting in Arizona, get a higher temperature. They have high temp hot glue, and that should be fine. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, question 2. I'm molding pieces that are about the size of a nickel, really tiny. They will be attached to the knuckle area on gloves. What materials and techniques would you suggest for something this small? Yeah, you've done some fairly like small-ish casting type pieces for some of your masks and costumes.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of those things, you could definitely do like just a regular box mold for it, and then while the resin's still green, you could bend it to fit your knuckles, even if it needed to have a curve.
Yeah, for sure. And what Steve means when it's still green is when the resin kicks and turns solid, there's a period of time where it's still flexible. You can pull it out of the mold and then form it to something. Including you could have a big flat piece that you bend around your head like a crown, and then let it kick all the way in that form, and it will stay that way.
Yeah, that's actually how Dead Space's visor was made. All those were flat and then wrapped around a trash can.
There you go. It's a good thing you have a trash can the same size as your head. Yeah, the only thing you want to worry about something really tiny is whether or not you'll get little bubbles in there, but you can just see. If it's small enough, you can just see if there's bubbles and you can poke them. That's what I recommend. Poke your bubbles. Thanks for the question, Magically Done Creations. Nazagorang, or Naz for short. What is the shiniest, clearest plastic to use for vacuum forming? Have you done much vacuum forming, Steve?
I have not. That's still something I need to build or get a hold of.
I haven't done a ton myself, but PETG seems to be pretty standard thing to use, and it's really easy to tint. You can tint it with iDye Poly clothing tint. So I would recommend PETG. You can also do acrylic. That's also clear. Either of the one of those should work. Whatever you can get your hands on. Just get a bunch extra. Actually, what did we do? We tried something with acrylic and it ended up getting giant bubbles in it.
Was that for the Commander Holly?
Yeah, and things went a little sideways on that project. So maybe stick with PETG. I've had the best results with that. Cool. Thanks for the question, Naz. Yancey wants to know, have you considered using the X-Carve or the laser to cut foam patterns? Now, Steve, you don't have either one of those, do you?
No, I bought one of those glow forges. What is that, 2 years ago? And still haven't seen one yet. So
well, when you get it, let me tell you, it is going to be awesome for cutting out foam. For sure. The X-Carve, I actually played around with it, cutting out a piece of EVA foam. The problem is that the EVA foam is not rigid enough, and it will actually move when the rotary bit hits it. I'm wondering if I had a faster spindle, if that would be less of a challenge. But I can say the laser is awesome for working with foam. Just make sure that is venting outside with a fan and everything. I just don't show that very often in my videos because most people don't have a laser, so it's not all that useful to most people. So there you go. Thanks, Yancey. Necron 90+9 wants to know, I made a Raiders of the Lost Ark idol out of Sculpey. I colored the idol with gold rub and buff, but it keeps rubbing off. Is there anything that will seal the rub and buff? How would you seal that, Steve?
Rub and buff is a waxed-based product, so that might be a little difficult. I don't know if you could just spray on an acrylic clear coat and if it would stick or not. Maybe that's definitely one of those put a test piece down.
Yeah, do some tests for sure, but maybe if you just put a lot on. I wonder,
like shellac it.
Yeah. I wonder if Core Geek is saying shellac in the chat. So there you go. Give shellac a try. Try it on a test piece first, though. Like I say with most things, do it on a test. I just saw the lights flicker, so if the stream ends, that's why the power went out. All right, thank you, Necron, for the question. Let's keep moving here. We got a bunch more coming at you. Let's see. Ozgan says, for a weapon, I guess making a foam weapon, would you use a PVC pipe or a wooden dowel for the core? He says, I'm finding the poplar is much lighter, but the PVC can be disassembled more easily. Do you have a preference as far as travel and carrying at a convention? I know, Steve, with your giant Death Dealer axe, that's just a giant hunk of wood, right?
Yeah, that one's a 2x4 that was sanded down. But my daughter's, the little Astrid axe that I made for that was poplar. And then I attached a threaded rod through it to where the top of the axe head just screws onto the actual handle.
So that's so the handle itself is wood, but then the axe head can be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And then how about for your Dragon Age costume? You made a giant sword. How'd you do that?
That was all foam, but same principle. It had a threaded rod in half of the sword, and then it had the nut with the threads in the other half, so the blade actually screwed onto the hilt.
And so the threaded rod is what reinforced the blade then?
Yeah, it was a 18-inch threaded rod that went from the handle up through the other half of the blade.
There you go. That'll work really well. I've had a lot of luck. Oh, my giant axe is behind me. Can people see that? There's a giant axe right there. The core of that is all PVC pipe because I needed it to be fairly thick. It's about 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches in diameter. And I needed it to not be super heavy. So it's a PVC pipe wrapped in foam to get that wood texture on there. And it's just got a coupler on it so that you can uncork it. I can just show you because it's right here. So it's gigantic, but if I uncork it, I can actually fit this in my luggage, just like that. And it doesn't need to screw in or anything. It's just enough friction to hold it together, like so. And it's good to go. So I like PVC pipe for that reason. Also, it's really cheap, and also there's a Lowe's right there, and I can go get more if I need it.
The only thing is, like, if you do the PVC one, right, and you're swinging it in a music video, that half of it could fly off.
But that hasn't happened to anyone we know. There you go. A couple of good ideas for you there, Osgand. Let's grab another one. This is from Laraldo. Let's see. Hi, Bill. How did you find the transition from working a desk job at Microsoft to working with your hands with physical tools, materials, barge, etc.? And what lessons did you learn that you didn't expect? Well, I guess we could both have our take on this, because I quit my job 5 years ago. How long ago was? I mean, you like started doing the whole full-time thing. How
About 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years, yeah. It's weird because the lessons I learned that I didn't expect is all of them. I didn't expect anything. I went into the whole thing pretty blind, with very little idea or plan. I don't know. Is that similar to your story, Steve?
I mean, my only advantage that I had a little bit is that I went to art school, and in art school they taught us, how to sell and, hey, make sure you save like this amount back and all that. But yeah, other than that, I went from being the top appliance sales guy at Lowe's to selling full time and building stuff, which I enjoy a lot more.
My art school did not teach me any of that. So yeah, you went to a better school than me. Let's see. How did I find the transition? Well, what's interesting is at the time, I was still working at my day job, and then I was doing prop making basically another 8 hours a day. So it was 8 hours of sleep, usually less than 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of prop making and 8 hours of work. So the transition was one day I got to do prop making 16 hours a day. And I thought that was awesome. But then about a month later, the paycheck stopped showing up, and the reality sunk in really fast. And I think more than anything, I learned that I needed to stay pretty flexible and pursue as many opportunities as I could to generate income, which has worked out. It's working out. How about you, Steve? Is it working out?
It's working out for me so far.
Working out. All right. Good to hear it. Live your dreams, kids. Pursue your dreams. It's great. It's just the best. Thanks, Laraldo. Let's grab another one here. Svan wants to know, any advice for building foam plates that slide over each other? I'm doing medieval fantasy build, and I found that the foam grabs itself instead of sliding. I have some ideas about this. How about you, Steve?
I guess I'm confused on the question.
Like if you have overlapping plates of armor and they want to slide against one another? Yeah.
I mean, so this is pre-coating them or anything like that. I mean, there's multiple things you could coat it with that would help with that friction.
Something I've found, I did this on my Mass Effect armor, is the top plate and the back plate are joined in the back by nylon webbing so that it can slide up behind it there. But you're right, it'll catch sometimes. So keeping that area smooth. And then if you have to, you could put a material down on there like a vinyl or something a little bit smoother so that they run across one another better. But that is definitely a point on my Mass Effect armor that gets a little wonky. We try and bend over. So yeah.
You would think with 20 some people wearing it would have been broken in by now.
I know, right? I think it's more like it's worn out. Thanks, Svan. Good luck with that one. You're going to have to do a little bit of testing to get that to work. Let's grab another one here from Matthew at Patina Props. He says, so this is kind of the opposite of most of the weathering that you do, but a steel sword that I have been making keeps on oxidizing and rusting from sitting in the closet. Any suggestions on how to stop the rusting other than just a clear coat? You know what? I think I have an idea. Do you have any ideas, Steve?
I don't really deal with metal.
I know, right?
All my foam props don't rust.
Our buddy Bob over at I Like to Make Stuff recently did a video. Let me see if I can fix this. How to fix up a drill press and a belt grinder.
Hey,
and there's Bob. He's yelling at us. But he had an old drill press that he took the rust off. Then he put something on it to help prevent it from rusting. And I I'm not quite sure what. Oh, look, he put a whole list of tools, right, or materials. But I don't know what it was. Welding mask, angle grinder, cutoff wheel, rivet gun, first aid kit. Somewhere on there, he put something on it to help prevent it from rusting. Let me just take a quick peek through the video. This is really good content. You know what I'll do? I'll just link you to that video. I'll drop it in the chat too. People in the chat are also saying wax. Wax would be really good too. So go watch Bob's video. That'll help you out. And apparently use wax. All right. That's right. That is not a problem I have ever had. Let's grab another question. This one's from Ron. He says, I superglued electronic wires into my prop, but the wires are trying to separate from the prop. What is a better method of adhesion? How do you glue your eye LEDs into your mask, Steve?
Depends on which version it is, but I mean the LEDs themselves are usually just hot glued into a bracket that holds them. But the wiring, I'll hot glue, but then I'll put small strips of foam over those to make sure everything like stays in place, doesn't move around at all.
Yeah.
Rather than just the wires.
Yeah, I imagine, especially if that's something you're going to have on your face too, you don't necessarily want those wires rubbing against your face. And then what do you use to glue that foam down? Just super glue or?
Super glue most of the time on foam.
Yep, that sounds like a pretty good solution right there.
Yeah, that's what I did throughout the entire Cosplay Melee suit that I did. Yeah. Because the other part they didn't mention is that my entire suit was filled with Christmas lights. And so I had wires everywhere.
You want to actually, it's not a bad idea to do that because also your sweat could short the lights. So doing something that would keep sweat from getting at those wires, and especially any place that you've soldered, would help. That would be a bummer. You're up on stage sweating like crazy and then all your lights. All right. Thanks, Ron. Hopefully that one helped you out. Taverna wants to know, hey, Bill, I'm going to make a no-face costume for an event I'm going to. What material do you guys suggest for me to make the mask so that it is hard and durable?
But it's also gigantic.
It is also gigantic.
No face has a big no face.
Yeah, you want it to be fairly lightweight. So if you were going to tackle that one, Steve, how would you do it?
Actually, one of my friends at Planet this last weekend did a no-face cosplay, and they used pink insulation foam to make the entire mask. But it was huge. It was probably like 2.5 feet big. So,
if you guys haven't already, I don't know why you wouldn't have, but excuse me, Adam Savage made one of those, and there's a video. Again, dropping the link in the chat there. There's a video where he kind of just talks through the whole costume because he didn't do a build video on it. So it's possible in that video he says what he made the face out of. If you have a giant vacuum form machine, that would be awesome. You could just make the sculpt a buck and then vacuum form it out of like 16th inch styrene and all set. Unlikely that you have a vacuum form that big, but if you do, that would be an awesome way to do it. But I like the insulation foam for sure, and then you could coat it in Epsilon Pro would be really good for that because you can make a nice hard shell on the outside of it. Steve, have you done much with insulation foam?
I have not.
Yeah.
But I saw the giant gun that Zombie made, so I'm like, wow, you could make a humongous prop out of it.
You sure can. You can work really fast with it. It's really lightweight and cheap too, especially for the volume. Let's see. We got a handful more questions. Let's grab another one here from Matthew over at Patina Props. He's curious about your thoughts on the competitive nature of the Cosplay Melee show. Competition can be healthy, but costume and prop making should be a cooperative field. Curious on your thoughts. I would say that everyone does it for their own reasons. There are many people who cosplay only for the competition aspect, and that's something they really enjoy. But I think on the show, we actually saw, they didn't do a ton of it, but at least once per episode, they showed people being super helpful, which I thought was cool. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, and I wish they had shown more.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely during our episode, every single one of us helped each other.
Yeah.
Becca, when she needed her backpack thing done, I went over and helped her. Josh, when he needed stuff. I mean, Sci-Fi did do a good job trying to show the community side. Honestly, none of us, at least in our episode, I'm pretty sure this is with all the other ones, none of us considered a competition with each other
Mm-hmm.
until we were on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a competition against the clock, just to get get the project done.
Yeah. And that's cool. I like that as well, because you do need an antagonist, right? It's just that ticking clock up in the corner. Awesome. Well, I thought that all really came through well in the show, so I was stoked to see that. Thanks for the question, Matthew. Let's grab another one from Shayaku Cosplay. I'm trying to make large articulated hands for my Daruk cosplay, something from the new Zelda game. The problem is the hand is 4 times the size of my normal hand, which means my fingers need to pull tendon strings 4 times harder, quickly tiring out my hands. Any tips or tutorials for reducing the amount of pull needed to make my giant fingers curl? I haven't done any giant articulated fingers like that. What do you think, Steve?
Gary Sterley
Yes.
did an amazing one with his Warhammer 40K. And then I had the pleasure of meeting Jeff Schimek at Planet Comic Con this last weekend. He's doing a full-scale Grom, and
Wow.
he did a whole automated hand for that one, too.
That's awesome. So basically, go see what other people have done and copy them.
But I know Gary's, he like 3D printed the whole thing.
He did.
It weighed next to nothing.
Let's see, Space Marine Construction. He's got a whole album. I just found it. We'll dump it in the show notes. I'm also throwing it in the chat. But Gary put together this whole build thread on his Facebook page, especially a giant thing about on the hands. I'm just quickly cruising through it here. But that hand is gigantic. It's like as big as his whole torso. So yeah, go through that album, see what he did, and copy him. And if you have questions, then I bet that he would be more than happy to help you out. Because Gary's a swell guy. I haven't seen him in a while. Hopefully he'll be at DragonCon this year. Oh wait, I gotta jump back over. He's got a whole bunch of photos showing the layout of the hands. Very thorough. Awesome. Pulleys and stuff. Very cool. Excellent. Thanks, Gary. Let's see here. That came to us from Shayaku Cosplay. Thanks for the question, and good luck with that ambitious build. Next one comes to us from Nostalgia. I've seen you mention spray varnish to seal your paint jobs on various props. What's the difference or advantage over that for a clear spray can job? When shouldn't you use the varnish? Have you ever used varnish, Steve?
Actually, I have. I just got some new ones.
Yeah.
So I use varnishes when it's going to be like a heavy wear thing. So these are specifically designed for miniatures.
Ooh.
So you can clear coat your miniatures in a matte or a gloss on areas, and your oil from your hands and everything won't mess the paint up.
Very good. I personally like varnish because it's flexible. I had no idea that it was flexible. But yeah, for foam stuff, I love using that varnish just because I prefer to make sure that everything I make can flex. Because I'm going to be mashing it in a crate and beating the crap out of it. And if it flexes, then it won't break. So that's why I like varnish. And you can get it in a spray paint can if you want, so it's really easy to spray, or get it in bottles and airbrush it, or just hand brush it if you want. You got lots of options, Nostalgia. Lots of options. Spray paint cans of clear coat, if you don't quite know what it is, if it's just clear, it might be rigid, and when you flex it, it'll crack. You don't know what you're going to get. Okay, let's grab another one here from Josh. As a prop and costume maker, do you think it's better to specialize in a given medium or to be a jack of all trades and learn as much as you can? What do you think, Steve? What would you consider yourself?
I sculptor, foam fabricator. it is a jack of all trades right now, but every project I do, I try to learn something new.
Yep.
But I've also defaulted. So like with my Alice in Wasteland, I'm not a seamstress.
Yeah.
So I got one of my buddies, Bethany Wicker, and she did a fantastic job making all the soft parts for the costume. Well, I focused on all the hard stuff, and then we got an actress that looked amazing.
Yeah. I think most prop and costume, especially costume making, it's going to be mixed media, right? So if you're going to be the person that tackles all of it, you're going to have to be a jack of all trades to tackle it. And now that's not to say that you have to be, like you said, it could be a collaboration between lots of other people. I like being good at many things, but I'm definitely better at like 3D modeling. I'm better at because I actually went to school for that, and working with foam, and then molding and casting is something I've done a lot of as well. So if I had to lean on skills to really get a certain project done, I would lean on those skills. But I can sew okay. I can get by.
It's like Death Dealer. I sewed his whole tabard.
Yeah. I could do all the things kind of all right, enough to get by. But I definitely
Good enough for cosplay.
Good enough for cosplay, and I only have to impress myself, really. So, so don't be afraid to tackle a whole bunch of different skills there, Josh. All right, this one. Oh, Zombie asked us a question. What does Zombie want to know? How do you both start planning and tackling a larger-than-life costume? I would like to point out that I've never done a larger-than-life costume, so we're going to let Steve handle this one.
When I did my giant full-scale Warcraft orc, I drew a full-scale Warcraft orc on my wall, and then held all the pieces up to it and based it off of that.
And were you able to kind of like put your own body form in that drawing to kind of figure out where your arms are going to go, where your legs are going to go, all that?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I had my whole 5'6" frame in that 6'5" body. So I knew but that was great because I knew how big the stilts had to be in the boots, and like my hands only come to his wrists, so I had to build out all the rest of the palm and everything.
And of course, you have a whole thread on the RPF for that build, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll link to that in the show notes, so you guys can go. You can go dive through the whole thing and see how it worked out. Like I said, I've never done a larger than life costume, so I don't know. I would probably ask Steve for help. I wonder then, Zombie, are you planning a larger than life costume?
Yeah. What are you gonna build?
Yeah. What are you cooking up? Whatever it is, I'm sure she'll put it up on our YouTube channel. Which, by the way, if you guys aren't watching Zombie's YouTube channel, head on over there right now. Give her a subscription. And there is just a torrent of rain outside. It is getting apocalyptic out there. All right. Next one, Norbert wants to know, what sort of foam do you use for more flexible use? For example, making a still suit for the Dune movie. I wonder, because it sounds like a lot of sewing to me. Corgi just linked to a picture of Steve's wall orc. Let me grab that real quick. You might use upholstery foam for that. Some more like squishy type foam, but you'd have to like sew it all together with the foam in the cloth for a still suit. That seems like something that someone on the RPF has probably already tackled and worth checking out. You did a lot of upholstery foam type stuff with your orc, right, Steve?
Yeah, the entire muscle suit for the chest and for the legs was all upholstery foam.
I've got a picture up right now of your wall orc that Core Geek linked us. So yeah, just a big old drawing on the wall.
Look how tiny those shoes are in it.
Awesome. I like it. Let's see. What was the question there? What sorts of foam? Yeah, I would say upholstery foam. We have a store called the Friendly Foam Store near us, and they sell upholstery foam. But also anywhere where you can get replacement foam for like a mattress or a cushion, that stuff that's a little more squishy. I usually buy that stuff for packing props that need to be like nicely packed and pretty looking. Thank you, Norbert. Corgi has a question. Who would win in an arm wrestling match between Steve and Bill? Oh, geez. I think Steve and I are probably on pretty even ground.
Yeah. I think that, worst case scenario, we could probably decide next Emerald City. But
that's true, yeah. I think Corgi could beat both of us.
With right and left hand.
Right and left hand, for sure, yeah. I don't know about you, Steve, but I'm really not feeling like being in any sort of feats of strength.
Again, I'm asking bodybuilders to wear my suits, okay? I mean,
there's a reason
I'm not
for that.
kidding anyone here.
We watched the Ultimate Beastmaster, or it's a show where people...
On Netflix?
Yeah. We watched that last night, and the entire time I just felt completely inadequate.
It's like, I would have made it through the first thing, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't
have. No, I would not. Yeah. It's just very, very fit people putting me to shame. That's fine. That's okay. They should do that in costume, I think. Thank you, Eric, for the question. Very thoughtful. Next one comes to us from Nerdy Views. Any tips on how to store spray paint or barge or pretty much anything that could give off fumes in a small apartment? Where do you put all of your spray paint cans, Steve?
I've actually got a small little enclosed closet that all my spray paint goes into.
Mm-hmm. And that's just a closet built into the wall, like in the house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out in the garage.
Oh, that's good. In the garage is good. If you are very serious about it, you could get a fireproof cabinet. Now, these are a little bit spendy, but you can get pretty small ones. Anything that gives off anything that might be flammable should be stored in a fireproof cabinet. But I just randomly found one here on Amazon, and it's fairly small. It is like $250, but it's fireproof. No fire's going to get in or out of that thing, so you will be completely safe. So if safety is your concern, which it should be, that's definitely the way to go. Yeah.
We all don't need to have the cabinet as big as Harrison's.
No. You can get giant, and if you have a big shop, you should have a big, like, floor-to-ceiling one that stores everything. All your flammables should go in there. Hey, Chad's here. Hoku Props in the chat. Shout out to Chad. You got questions about larger-than-life costumes. You go talk to that Chad guy. Thank you, Nerdy Views. Let's grab one more here. This one's from Zap Rousdowser. Steven, I'm working on a Skeletron cosplay, and I've been following your Instructable.
Yay.
Do you have any Skeletron insights or pointers that didn't make it into your Instructable?
I mean, the mask and the weapon are pretty straightforward. The hardest thing that I came across to try to locate for that costume was the sweater.
Oh.
And it's an number 85, not 88, which was what a lot of people think. And they were sold by H&K and Forever 21. And when I decided I wanted to make that costume, I had to lurk on sites that girls sell their clothing to be able to locate one of these. And I felt like a creep, but I got one.
There you go. From the master himself. Lurk on clothing websites. Cool. Thanks, Zap Rousdowser. And thank you everyone else who dropped a question in today, and everyone for hanging out in the chat. A lot of familiar faces like Zombie. I see Solo Roboto in there too. Our buddy, a different Steven. Also, you're going to start streaming? Is that true, Steve? You're gonna start
streaming true. I'm in the process currently of getting everything all set up. I hope to start streaming this coming Monday, starting at 10 a.m. in the Central Time.
That's awesome.
I've got some masks and stuff ready to go, and then future plans.
So if you want to watch Steve trim the flashing off of resin cast masks for a couple hours.
This is going to be painting.
Okay.
I specifically am coming out with the big guns to begin with. The only reason people are watching me, it's not for my face or my body. purely for my painting ability.
Very, very cool. Well, I'm excited to see you start streaming more. You guys can preemptively head over to twitch.tv/SKS Props and give him a follow right now. Sign up for notifications so you'll hear when he starts going live. That's about it. That is all we have. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for hanging out.
Oh, thank you for having me, Bill.
Thanks for staying up there, old man.
We had to get so much done because my oldest daughter Haley turns 12 tomorrow.
Oh, that's exciting.
We're gonna have 6 girls over for a sleepover, and so I'm like, I'm not sleeping tomorrow night.
That is less exciting. All right. Well, thank you again so much for hanging out with us, Steve. Thank you, chat, for hanging out with us this last hour and bringing your awesome questions. Once again, no live streams for us next week because we will be traveling. So hold on to your butts because it'll be a little while. That's all we have for Prop Live Q&A this week. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody. Good job, everyone.